Every major studio has these projects that they were extremely excited about once, only to drop them before they ever hit the big screen. And Universal Pictures is no different. From ambitious sequels to forgotten comic book movies to a whole canceled universe, these are the Universal movies we'll never get to see. Everyone can agree that cowboys are awesome, as are ninjas, as well as Vikings. Well, some geniuses thought, what if they were all combined into one wonderful megatrope? That's the rough idea behind the graphic novel Cowboy, Ninja, Viking by A.J. Lieberman and Riley Rossmo. The story is about a psychotherapist who can transform into multiple secret agent personas that take the form of a cowboy, a ninja, and a Viking. Chris Pratt had signed on to star as the Good Doctor, and Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad director Michelle MacLaren would have made her feature film debut, working from a $65 million budget with a script that had been written at various stages by guys who'd worked on Rampage, The Hangover 2, and Deadpool. The film had a projected release date of June 28, 2019, and it looked to be a fun action comedy and a likely blockbuster. But just as casting was ramping up, Universal pulled the movie off its schedule and called off production, delaying the film indefinitely. According to an insider, the film had some screenplay issues, and rumors of calling the whole thing off bounced around for 5 months before Universal threw in the towel. According to a report by Wired in 2017, Halo publisher Microsoft aggressively tried to get a film version of its mega-popular video game series going in 2005. The software giant took bids from interested studios, and ultimately, the only two parties left vying for the right to make Halo were Fox and Universal, who decided to team up and split the likely enormous production costs of making a sci-fi combat film. At first, things were going just fine. Halo got a screenplay by 28 Days Later writer Alex Garland, and District 9 creator Neil Blomkamp signed on to direct, and that's when the clashes with the studio began. He thought he could make a cool cyberpunk-type movie, while he said executives wanted a, quote, generic, boring film. With the parties so deeply at odds, Halo fell apart. Fans still have a slim reed of hope to hold on to, however. Showtime announced a live-action Halo series in 2020, and if that does well enough, who knows? Perhaps a movie might be in the cards after all. After the release of the unnecessary but successful Jaws 2 in 1978, and the success of the full-length disaster movie parody Airplane in 1980, Jaws producers David Brown and Richard Zanuck wondered if the same rapid-fire joke format could be applied to the Jaws franchise. They contacted Maddie Simmons, publisher of iconic 70s humor magazine National Lampoon and the man behind the brand that released Animal House. Simmons decided to be a producer too, and the three guys set out to make Jaws 3, or as they hilariously called it, Jaws 3 People Zero. The producers pursued Joe Dante to direct, as he'd just helmed a Jaws knockoff called Piranha, and they got regular Lampoon contributors Todd Carroll and John Hughes to write a very silly script. Ultimately, Zanuck and Brown were afraid to go into the water, as they didn't think it would be the best idea to so thoroughly mock their meal ticket. In the end, Universal did make a third Jaws movie, 1983's non-humorous and famously bad Jaws 3D. Who but Guillermo del Toro, a modern visionary of the spooky and surreal, could adapt a classic work of terrifying science fiction by the legendary H.P. Lovecraft? At the Mountains of Madness is a 1931 novella about scientists who discover the ancient and frightening alien mutants who live within Antarctica. And making it into a movie has long been a passion project for Del Toro. Because of his proven track record, along with interest from Tom Cruise and James Cameron, Universal similarly thought that At the Mountains of Madness just might make a great movie, and the studio paid for Del Toro to come up with some creature designs. What the studio didn't like was Del Toro's projected budget of $150 million on a project that would most definitely earn an R rating for its violence and general scariness, thus limiting its box office draw by shutting out teenage filmgoers. Del Toro ultimately blamed himself, saying that he, quote, should have lied to Universal and just told them that he'd shoot for a PG-13 ending so as to get them to greenlight the movie. It remains a tantalizing missed opportunity, and Del Toro has vowed that he's not giving up on trying to get it made. Former bodybuilder and California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger first proved that he could headline a movie with the release of the epic 1982 fantasy, Conan the Barbarian. In the film, Schwarzenegger takes the classic hero's journey as a mighty, muscle-bound, sword-carrying warrior out to avenge the death of his parents.
crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women.
The film was a surprise hit, earning $39 million at the domestic box office, indicating a big appetite for a sequel. Conan the Destroyer followed in 1984 and brought in similar revenues for Universal. A third movie in the series finally got underway, about 30 years later. Chris Morgan, screenwriter of multiple Fast and Furious films, came on board with a solid premise for a film about an older Conan, and Schwarzenegger was excited by the project. However, Universal had a number of concerns that Morgan and others working on the project couldn't overcome. The project remains in limbo, but in 2019, screenwriter Chris Morgan told The Hollywood Reporter that he still had hopes of bringing the Old Man Conan movie, provisionally titled The Legend of Conan, to theaters someday. Before Marvel and Disney assembled to launch the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the comics publisher contracted with various studios to bring its superheroes to the big screen. Universal landed the rights to The Incredible Hulk, and with Hulk in production in late 2002, the studio was so confident that it made agreements to make 2 more Marvel movies. The comic giant's movie division announced that year that Universal would be tackling one of their oldest characters, Namor the Submariner, and one of their newest, Prime. The task of bringing the epic story of Submariner, an amphibious king from Atlantis, to the screen fell to David Self, best known for scripting the film Road to Perdition. Meanwhile, the duo of Chris Conroy and Don Colomé got the Prime gig, which concerned a teenaged boy who could turn into a full-grown superhero. Seeing as it's been roughly 20 years since these films were announced, during which time Marvel found itself a home at Disney, Submariner is likely dead in the water, and it's no longer Prime's time. Of course, that doesn't mean they've been entirely forgotten. There's still a chance that Submariner in particular could show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe sometime very soon. Who Framed Roger Rabbit ushered in a new era of projects that mixed live action with animation and helped to bring on the music video for Paula Abdul's Opposites Attract. The song is a duet, and the male voice is credited to the Wild Pair, a singing duo consisting of Bruce DeShazer and Marv Gunn. But in the video, those vocals are synced up to the flapping mouth of an animated cat named MC Skat Kat. The clip proved so popular that Virgin Records gave MC Skat Kat and his expanded universe of cool feline friends, including Fats, Taboo, Maestro, Leo, Kathleen, and Silk, a spin-off album in 1991 called MC Skat Kat and the Stray Mob. While the video for the single Scat Strut performed well on MTV, it stalled at number 96 on the Billboard Hot 100. That lack of public interest is likely what killed development of more MC Skat Kat related multimedia projects. See, at the peak of this minor mania, Virgin Music and Universal Pictures discussed a big-screen MC Skat Kat movie that would have blended live action and animation. It never got past the planning stages, and neither did a proposed MC Skat Kat Saturday morning cartoon for Fox. After Disney launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Warner Brothers created the DC Extended Universe, Universal realized it could have its own interconnected film series too, remembering that it made classic monster movies in the 1930s, including Dracula, Frankenstein, The Invisible Man, and Bride of Frankenstein, among other classics. Universal decided to reboot and link those films together. In 2014, Universal announced that filmmakers Alex Kurtzman and Chris Morgan would lead the project, which the studio ultimately named The Dark Universe in 2017. Along with that news, Universal said it would produce Bride of Frankenstein, directed by Bill Condon and scheduled for release on February 19, 2019. That would be followed by movies with Javier Bardem as Frankenstein's monster, Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man, and Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
But death is a doorway, and the past cannot remain buried forever.
And none of these movies happened. Why? Well, blame the Mummy. This early Dark Universe entry earned savage reviews and a so-so, money-losing $80 million at the domestic box office. A few months later, Kurtzman and Morgan left the Dark Universe, and the studio postponed Bride of Frankenstein from its 2019 release, saying in a statement that the film needed, quote, more time to develop. Nevertheless, in January 2019, Universal proclaimed that the Dark Universe was over, but said that it would continue to develop some of those monster movies into standalone films. In early 2020, we saw the first fruits of those labors when The Invisible Man, starring Elizabeth Moss, arrived in theaters to positive reviews and a strong box office. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.